Hey cuties, welcome to the dark side of perfect. I'm your host Maggie, and today we are going to be talking about control and change as it pertains to being a perfect girl. We might not hit all of those points, but that is the goal of today is to talk about change and control. So let's talk about it. When I first outlined season two, I wasn't expecting this episode to come at such a apropos time in my life. I am dealing with a lot of transition right now, a lot of change. And due to that, I procrastinated until the very last second making this episode because it just didn't feel right for some reason. Like I couldn't get my thoughts that I didn't have down on the page to write about this topic, but at some point you just have to stop waiting to be ready and just do it because being ready may never come. And so I waited until the very last second to feel ready. I still don't really feel ready to record this episode, but that's okay. It's going to happen. And however it turns out is how it turns out. The change in my life right now is a lot. It's not as much as it could be, but I think that's just because I don't know if this is true of everyone or all perfect girls, or maybe it's very specific to me, but I am a really good compartmentalizer. So I stuff the different aspects of my life into tiny boxes in my brain that lock up and seal. And then I can't see the changes and the differences of what is going on in my life. So my major change right now is that I just bought a house and I'm currently working on painting, renovating some of the little things that need to be done before we move in and moving into my house, which means that I am living in two places right now. We have a mattress on the floor in what's going to be our guest room. And so my husband and I have been sleeping here sometimes, sleeping at the apartment sometimes. I don't have any kitchen utensils here, so I've been eating out way more than I like to. And while that's been happening, I also have my job and my podcast and friends and a bunch of other responsibilities and things that need tending to. But I have been really letting everything fall, it feels like everything is snapping around me and falling to the ground because I am so focused on the house and I'm here every day and it's about 35 minutes from where my apartment is. So it's just been a lot of change all at once and a lot of predictive behavior on my end of like, what am I going to look like in this new house? What is this new town going to change my life about? How are my routines going to change? How are aspects of my friendships and relationships going to change? Just a lot of thinking about the outcome of what this transition means. And then also, one of my friends is moving away, a friend who I adore and love, obviously, and she's moving away, and that is going to be a big change, a change I can't even focus on right now with the house. And it's fine because she's not moving for 2 months, so then it must not be that important right now for me to focus on, but that is not true. I'm just shoving everything into my mind and letting everything fall to the wayside in favor of this one change because it is a huge change, even if I'm not recognizing it as one, if that makes sense. Anyway, that was a lot of me rambling and setting up this episode to say that it's coming at a very opportune time for me because change as a perfect girl is hard. I feel like even more so for perfect girls. I think change is hard for everyone, but for someone who is a perfectionist and a little bit of a control freak, I say in the cutest way possible, a little type A, type C, even type B. I don't know. Whoever you are, change is difficult. It's hard because it triggers our security system in our brain, that little amygdala in our brain that's like, a tiger is chasing you and you're literally about to fall off of a cliff and die because you can't predict the outcome of this experience and how it's going to change you. As perfect girls, we overthink. We like our color coordinated planners. We like to know what's going to happen next. We don't like the uncertainty that comes with change. But if there is one thing that's true about life, it's that change is always going to happen to you. Things are always moving. I had a really good metaphor that I now cannot think of. Dang. Anyway, change is a prediction machine for a perfect girl. So as soon as something happens, it could be something small, it could be something big. For example, of something small, I guess, is like changing your cell phone plan or changing your phone. And then all I think about when I think about changing my phone is like, am I going to lose all of my pictures? Am I going to lose all of these memories that I have come together with all of the years that I've had my phone? And that is scary enough that I have not changed my phone since I was, I don't know, 20. So it's been about 6 years, 7 years. So it's basically anticipating all the ways that that change will change your life. So your brain is on a constant loop and a constant spiral of these prediction indications of how your life is going to be affected by the change, even if it's very small. So we try to minimize the surprise and the uncertainty by controlling those variables. Hence the color coded planners and timing out our day down to the minute. And an example of this that I thought of the other day was of trying to control something that you cannot control, and it makes you feel better, but only temporarily, is rituals on planes. So if you listen to my last episode, my friend Maddox and I were talking about our plane movies and our kind of rituals on planes because we're both nervous flyers. So I know that a lot of people touch the outside of the plane. For me, I have to sit on the right side of the plane. Every time I haven't, something has happened, like we've had to be rerouted. So it's basically confirmed that I have to sit on the right side of the plane. And I watched my plane movie, and when Maddox was flying on a plane once, someone told her that if she ate chocolate-covered pretzels, it would help, and so now every time she's on a plane, she eats chocolate-covered pretzels, and that's part of her ritual to have a safe and comfortable flight, even though, obviously, flying is something that is out of our control. But through these little rituals and through these little things, we try and control the uncontrollable. And how that relates to change is that through all of this uncertainty and through not knowing what's coming next, our response to control that surprise, which is uncontrollable because life is going to happen whether you like it or not, our reaction is to overthink, overplan, and predict everything that's going to happen to us. And I'm not saying that that's bad, but it does put you into a little bit of a fatigue mode. I've been dead tired through this change. Dead tired because of all of the work I've been doing on the house, physical labor, but also because of all of the different directions that my head is spinning in for my job, my podcast, my house, my going between the apartment and the house. What am I going to eat for dinner tonight? All of that decision fatigue. And then also just the constant rumbling of my mind going through all of these predictions of what's going to happen and trying to control something that I cannot control. But will I stop trying to control it? No, I won't. Thank you. But I do have these constant thoughts of all of the aspect of life. And so I'm burning energy and I'm trying to listen to my body and trying to take rests when it tells me to. But that's really hard when my day is full, you know? And I can't just sit here and rest because if I do sit here and rest, then I think about all the things that I should be doing. And if I have time to rest, then I have time to sit at my computer and send a couple of emails even if I'm not working on the house, which is obviously physical labor. So sometimes I'm like out of that. But, if I'm resting, I can send some emails because apparently brain work doesn't count in my head. It doesn't count as being something that takes effort and that will drain me, but it is. It is something that will drain me. And sending an email, I'm sure a lot of us corporate girlies know sending an email is just as bad as a tiger chasing me. Honestly, I might prefer the tiger, but it's something that has to be done, and it's not a tiger chasing you. I always try and take a deep breath before I send an email or when I get an email and try and recenter myself to try and train myself that it's not a fight or flight response, but sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it doesn't happen. And I know that this episode is a little bit more casual than my past episodes, and I think that's just because I have an outline like I usually do, and I know what I want to talk about. But for some reason, this episode has been like a huge block on my mind. And so I'm just kind of talking through it. And I'm hoping that something resonates with someone else who might be going through a change or a transition or changing their cell phone and needing some help with this. I might honestly do another episode soon to build on some of the topics in this that's a little bit more structured. So bear with me. Okay. So, what change does and what makes us feel like change is so hard as perfect girls is the disruption to our routine, which, duh, right? But it's like you're driving on a smooth paved road and everything is going according to plan. And then all of a sudden, whether you choose it or not, change happens. You take a turn, whether you chose to turn down that road or something was blocking you, a roadblock, and you had to turn down that road. And then that road turns bumpy because of all of the uncertainty on that road. You don't know where you're going to end up. Hopefully, you'll end up at the same endpoint, but if you don't, then maybe it's for the better. But the road there will smooth out again. It won't be immediate and it won't be as smooth as the first road right away. And it honestly might change from giant hills to small potholes to a little bit of texture on the road, then to smoothness, but eventually we'll get back to smooth. And the prediction is trying to avoid those hills, right? Trying to avoid the texture, trying to make our car go in a straight line as smooth as possible. But sometimes there are rocks you don't see. That's all I'm saying. And if you have the strict routines that cause the smooth road, or if you have strict routines on the smooth road, then turning can feel like a personal failure. For example, I do laundry on Wednesdays, a very small example of a strict routine. I do not like doing laundry. I do it on Wednesdays. Every Wednesday, I realize it's Wednesday and then I will do laundry and I will wash it and fold it all in one day. And it's just me and my husband, so it's not that much laundry, so it's fine to just do it on one day. But that's when I do laundry is on Wednesdays. And since this move, I don't think I've done laundry once. I've noticed it's Wednesday. I've thought, oh, I need to do laundry today. But then I haven't because I'm either not my apartment where my clothes are or because I am dead tired from physical labor, mental labor, juggling all of these different aspects of my life. I'm dead tired. So obviously, I'm saying all these self deprecating things to myself because I didn't do the laundry and I strayed from my strict routine. And it feels like a personal failure to get away from my routine. And obviously, me changing houses is a huge change and a huge transition, especially because it's a distance from my current apartment. But even small changes that throw you off of your routine can feel like a personal failure. And then it's really hard to get back on that routine. And then you just feel like you're failing all over the place. Like if you go to the gym on Mondays and something happens 3 Mondays in a row, and you can't go to the gym. And then you feel like a personal failure and you're telling yourself all of these horrible self deprecating things that you know are not true. You know that you just got busy, but your brain is telling you these horrible, awful things about how you broke your strict routine because of some transitional shift in your life. And then it's really hard to get back on that routine. And as perfect girls, we have the thought that if we don't do our strict routine, then we are failures. And it fails to take into account all of the shifting elements of our life, all of the change that's happening to us. But that does not make you a failure, that you shifted routines due to a change. And maybe it's time to find a new routine. In season 1, I did an episode on routines and about how things change and you have to change your routine every so often, and how having a strict routine isn't always actually what's best, even if all of the influencers and life gurus tell you that having a super strict routine is the key to a happy life. That is not true. The key to a happy life is surprise and variability and working through the change to maintain that whimsy and to maintain what life is about, which is surprise. And having a level of control is good, a level of color coded planners. I love a color coded planner. I'm going to have one all the time, and that's just going to happen. And I will plan my day down to the minute if I want to. But I don't always stick to that plan. Sometimes I have to change things to other minutes, and sometimes I move my tasks to different days. And honestly, with this whole house change, things have been getting pushed more days than I like. And so when that happens, it's important to schedule, I call it an admin day, but a day where you're just going to sit down and you're going to do what you have to do, regardless of the change happening around you. A day that you know is free to just do admin stuff, do laundry, send emails, record a podcast, whatever you're doing. That is today for me. And then I also want to say that with any change, something is going to change with any small shift. But it's important to remember that the road will smooth out again. It will feel normal again eventually. For example, my friend moving, I don't see her every day, and her leaving will change my life. Will it change my day-to-day activities? No. Will it change the amount that we talk to each other? Probably not. But it will change my life. And it will obviously change her life because she's moving away. And even though that change affects her and is part of her, it will affect me. And my point to that is that any change in your life is going to cause a change in your life. Any small shift is going to cause a ripple effect of things that are going to alter in your life. And you can try and control the variables all day long. But at the end of the day, something is changing and you just have to adjust and be flexible and wait for the road to smooth out and do the very best that you can with what you're given and what you have available to you to make the change as easy as possible. And that's not to say you won't have feelings about it. When she moves away, I'm going to bawl like a baby. It's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult for both of us, but you know, it's good. It's good. And I recognize that. And I recognize that I can't hold her hostage here. And I recognize that she can't shackle herself to my fridge and stay here. We are going to have a plan and we're going to stay together, even though she's leaving and the change is very difficult. But the road will smooth out eventually. Things will go back to a normal cadence eventually. We tell ourselves this mantra of, I should be handling this better. No matter how you're handling change, you at some point during the change think, I should be handling this better. I should be stronger. I should be more flexible. I should be able to extend myself in different directions with no problem I have before. So why is it so hard for me now? I was in college, I was in grad school, I was in high school, I had 1,000 extracurriculars, and now for some reason I can't stretch myself beyond what is right in front of me. I should be doing better. I should be managing better. What this does is dumps stress into our system, raises our cortisol. I love using that buzzword on this podcast because I feel like it's such a hot word. No, it raises our cortisol and narrows our vision. And all of that stress narrows our scope to as little as possible so that we can handle it within that stress response. But it also keeps us in constant fight or flight. So every little thing, like missing one night of skincare, feels huge. And then you tell yourself all these horrible self-deprecating things because you missed one night of skincare or one morning of skincare, or you didn't wash your hair for a week. I don't know. And then you tell yourself all these horrible things. But with that stress response and telling yourself constantly that you should be handling it better and raising your stress levels and narrowing your vision, it keeps you focused on one tunnel instead of seeing the whole mountain range. It keeps you on one tunnel. And then you can't wash your hair. And it's too much to wash your hair. And that's fine. It's too much to wash your hair. But that does not change how good of a person you are or how good you are at handling stress or how good you are at handling multiple things. It's like our brain has, I don't know if you can visualize this with me. It's like our brain has all of these threads, right? And they're going out to all of these different directions and all of these different priorities and all these different aspects of life. And I'm imagining them like all different colors just stretching out from my brain, attaching to the physical word of the priority of what it is, and all of them pulling as tight as they possibly can. And then you add something that you forgot about in the narrow vision tunnel, like washing your hair, and suddenly every single string snaps. And then you have a big emotional response. And it doesn't have to be washing your hair. It could be you break a plate or you smash a bookshelf into your newly painted walls, or I don't know, something happens and all of those strings snap. Nothing is a priority anymore, and you are on the floor crying because you have put yourself in such a stressful situation. That happens to all of us. I want to normalize that so hard. That happens to all of us where we put ourselves in this incredible stressful situation and then we snap. And I think I've talked about that on this podcast before, actually. Like the building and building and building and building of stress until it all crumbles and then you're on the floor crying. And to stop that from happening, we as perfect girls plan our day down to the minute. We plan our day down to the minute to avoid feeling our feelings and to avoid that crash because we have everything that we could possibly need detailed in our planners and to have some semblance of control over the situation. Even when chosen, even when we choose to turn down that rocky road, the change threatens our cognitive rigidity. The perfect girl rules for how we're supposed to feel, perfect girl rules in quotes, of how we're supposed to feel get broken. And I also think that this ties back to grieving who you never got to be, the episode I did on that. It ties back to the idea of grieving your old path, of wanting to go back to the smooth road. And because you know what was at the end of that smooth road. But what really is the truth though, is that the road was smooth, but it could have turned bumpy in an instant because of change, because something could have shifted your trajectory and your path. It doesn't have to be a full turn. Maybe something small, a rock threw into your road and made it a little bit bumpy. And it's okay to grieve that old path and to think of what if would have happened on that road and to think about how good life was when you were able to juggle all of these different things and now you're looking down a narrow tunnel. It's okay to think about your old life, the previous life that you were living before you made the turn, especially when the road ahead is uncertain. So, that was a lot of talking about change and control, and I hope that some of it resonated. But what I want to talk about for the end of this episode is just some thoughts on, I guess, how to deal with it. I don't know, maybe what I've been trying to do during this change in my life, what I've been trying to remind myself of, some lessons that I've learned during this change is what I'm going to end this episode with. So, the first thing is in my routines episode in the past, I talked about work life balance and how I don't think that it's really about balance because that implies that everything is equal. And as perfect girls, with our all or nothing mentality, our cognitive rigidity, our strict routines and plans, we feel like everything should be equal. We should be measuring all things in equal measure. But what it's really about is harmony and applying priorities to the things that require your attention most at the time. And that's not to say that you fully bring up moving into a new house and totally drop off work because that's unrealistic and unreasonable. But if you're moving into a new house and the house needs more of your attention, then that does come up a little bit in the priority scale. And then the harmony is created to build this new temporary routine to have work and have that be a priority but have the house be the main thing that you're focusing on. So it's about creating harmony. And what I've really been struggling with during this change is creating that harmony and making it so that the house is a priority, but work doesn't totally fall to the wayside because I've been focusing on the house so much and then I'm dead tired and I'm not able to focus on work. But that's when you schedule an admin day and you know that you need to do work specific stuff. So you schedule a day or a block of time that's always going to be work. And then if you don't stick to that block of time, you change it. The next thing I've been trying to learn is to listen to my body through this time. As I've said 100 times in this episode, I've been so tired and just dead, like falling to the floor, going to bed at 9 p.m., dead tired, and I've been eating out a lot, which I really like to cook, and I honestly miss my cooking, but I'm gonna do an episode on, like, cycle syncing and all of that stuff, and so a lot of my focus is health related in my life, and eating out a lot is fine, and I like to eat out, whatever, but I've been eating out every single meal for the past 2 weeks, so, number 1, it's very expensive, and number 2, it goes against some of the things I value about myself, which is my ability to cook and stay on my shit for my cycle and my health stuff that I like to maintain. So I'm I've come up with a plan to bring over some cooking stuff while our kitchen is being demoed so that I can make some at-home meals at the house to try and pull back to that, and then listening to my body whenever it tells me that I am dead tired. Or sometimes when I'm dead tired, it's actually because I'm really dehydrated and I haven't been drinking water. I've been drinking a lot of coffee because I've been tired. So making sure to tie water into my day because that is what I need and what my body is telling me that I need. So, listening to your body in times of change. The next thing is controlling what I can control. So, since I have this idea of needing to control the variables, wanting to control the situation, doing these predictive outcomes, I've been trying to let go of things that I know are out of my control. For example, right now I'm waiting for a furniture delivery, but I'm recording my podcast because when they get here is not in my control. But what is in my control is this podcast and making sure that I'm staying on top of the things that are important to me. So if they show up while I'm recording this podcast, great. I'll pause it and I'll go let them in. So not letting the uncertainty control my life. And I think that's why I procrastinated on this podcast for so long because I was so uncertain about when I would record it, where I would record it, making sure my office was set up appropriately so that I felt cute recording it and whatever. Tying back to plane rituals, one of my rituals and my mantra that I'm trying to tie into this transition time in my life is I cannot worry about the things I cannot control. And it honestly really helps me on a plane. I think about the plane being between two jello pieces during turbulence, and I say I cannot have anxiety about the things I cannot control. I cannot worry about the things I cannot control. I just say that to myself over and over like a mantra, and it really does work and it really does help. I don't know what to tell you. So maybe try that. Maybe try just taking a deep breath and saying to yourself, I cannot worry about the things I cannot control. What can I control right now? On a plane, you can control the movie that you watch. You can control what you're listening to. You can control, to some extent, the snacks that you're eating and what you're drinking. You can control how warm you are if you brought a jacket. What you cannot control is the turbulence and the air and the people around you. So just think about what you can control in a time of change and focus on those things because that will make you feel more in control and help you let go of some of the uncertain things. Next is the 90-second feeling sit. So if all of your strings are in your brain are pulled super tight and they're about to snap and something happens, sit in it for 90 seconds without trying to change it. Studies show that an emotional wave only lasts 90 seconds if you don't throw any shoulds at it. If you don't throw, I should be handling this better, I should be doing better, I shouldn't be feeling this way. If you don't throw any of that at it, then 90 seconds is the average time of an emotional wave. I don't know how true that is. I've never been able to accomplish that, but I've been really working on it. I've been really trying. So if you don't feed it, if you don't feed the emotion, when you're overwhelmed by boxes and the to-dos and whatever, try sitting with it for 90 seconds without trying to fix it. The next thing is if you're on that smooth road right now, if you're not experiencing any change, if you're on a good life, just a good road, nothing going on, then try microdosing some uncertainty. And that way, when change does inevitably happen, you don't feel as taken back. You don't feel like you're having a physical response to change. So what that means is like drive a new way home. Try going somewhere without using your GPS. Actually, Maddox and I were out walking the other day in Denver. We went to go see Phantom of the Opera and we walked around Denver without using a GPS because not only does it increase your neuroplasticity and learning in your brain, but it leads to some uncertainty. Where am I going? Am I going to get lost? And then, of course, you always have your GPS if you do get lost and you need to go somewhere. But it can help you with the microdosing of uncertainty so that when change does happen, you are more primed to accept it, if that makes sense. So, not using GPS, driving a new way home, go do something new that you've never done before. My parents just took a beekeeping class and they loved it, but they've never been around bees before. So, like, that was something totally new for them and something uncertain, and they didn't know what they were walking into. So, trying something new and microdosing some of that uncertainty so that it primes your brain to better handle change. I want to end with life without surprise is a life without whimsy. Of course, we want to be in control, and we, as perfect girls, we know what we should be doing. We know what the expectation is. We know what we tell ourselves, what others tell us. We want to shift shift any perceived sliding around into a straight line. We want to control the variables, and control to some extent is healthy and it's good and it can make you feel better. It does. It makes me feel better, but you can't control everything. And you know that. I know that. We all know that we can't control everything, and trying to control everything is just going to put you into a deep fatigue, tired, wear you out, and make it so that you can't harmonize your life and you can't go after the things that you want to do and create your path and accept the change where it happens. And a big part of breaking the should trap and becoming the person that you want to be is changing your life and changing things and being able to handle that change with what it brings you. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I know it was a little bit rambly, but I hope that some of what I said resonated with you. And if you're going through change right now, or if you are in a situation where you have a lot of different buckets and you're trying to maintain control, I hope that some of my thoughts helped to, I don't know, ease your mind a little bit and maybe open up some of the boxes to allow in some change and uncertainty. If you could follow and rate this podcast, I would really appreciate it. Any interaction really does help. So leaving a comment of what is changing in your life right now, maybe some things that you use when you are feeling uncertain that would help other listeners. Also, if you would like to follow the podcast Instagram, it is darksideofperfect.pod. That is darksideofperfect, period, POD. I hope you are finding joy wherever you are today. I hope that you are finding some surprise in life wherever you are today and that you take a new way home. And I will see you next time.